Welcome to Independently Speaking, the podcast from the Independent Schools Association. ISA supports head teachers and staff across a wide variety of independent schools. Join us for a new episode as we explore the world of independent education, sharing insights from school leaders and discussing the challenges and opportunities shaping our sector. Here is your host, Director of Education and Inclusion, Helen Stanton-Tonner.
Welcome to the ISA podcast, Independently Speaking. I am your host, Helen Stanton-Tonner, the Director of Education and Inclusion for ISA. Today we are continuing our exploration of cross-sector collaboration by looking at how Beech Lodge School, an independent school specialising in education for children who learn and see the world differently, creates meaningful partnerships that enhance both student development and community impact. In particular, we'll be shining a light on their innovative Apprentice Shop project, a partnership-led social enterprise that provides real-world work experience for pupils and connects the school to its wider community in real powerful ways. To help us explore this, I'm delighted to be joined by Dan Gillespie, the head teacher of Beech Lodge School. Thank you so much for joining us, Dan.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Now, for our listeners who might be less familiar with independent special schools, could you introduce Beech Lodge and explain the types of students it supports?
So we are a special school based in Maidenhead. We were originally set up to support children with attachment trauma needs. Daniela Shanley, our founder, actually established the school because she has two adopted children of her own, and her eldest son, Dom, found school almost inaccessible. Well, there's no almost about it, actually. And so she very determinedly sat down and decided that if there wasn't a school that would work for her son, she needed to create one. So she met Lucy Barnes, who's now our principal, and together with Emma Barklam, they set up the first Beech Lodge, which was in a converted barn in Hurley with 5 children and 3 staff. And nearly 13 years on from that, we are in a purpose-built site in Maidenhead on just shy of 11 acres with 80 children. Again, our primary need is still attachment trauma, but the things that link our cohorts, 75% of our cohort is care experienced, but the things that link our children are that they need a different approach to learning. School experiences have been bruising, they've been negative. They are working cognitively anywhere between 2 and 5 years behind their chronological age, and they need more time. We focus very heavily on relationships, and the relational approach to learning is probably the biggest sort of differential for us. All 80 of ours are funded on education, health and care plans. We have no private funders, so in some ways within the independent sector we are more unusual than some.
And Dan, thank you. You're now going to take us around and we'll start in the reception area.
Cool, no worries. So reception kind of split the school in half.
Okay.
And if you look at it in kind of real straightforward terms, little schools on this side and big schools on that side. So we teach at stage, not age, so it's hard to give any hard and fast rules around what that split is, but generally they'll be on this side of school until they're early stage year 9.
Right.
And then they transition over to this side, where we run a couple of transition classrooms and then work them towards a more traditional secondary model.
Right.
So the whole purpose of the way it works is that to our kids, and their experience here is just like their mainstream peers would be, but in a very Beech Lodge, sort of watered down, accessible version.
And so they all come in through the main entrance
Yeah,
here?
so in the mornings, they get dropped off either by parents or by school transport taxis. They come in through this door, sign themselves in, and then go to where they need to be.
And is it deliberately on one floor?
Yeah.
So there's no
all
stairs?
the way through. No stairs.
Apart from for the
anywhere.
office, of course.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to remember about this as a school. I mean, I've been here 7 years now, but we've been in existence for nearly 13. And when Daniela Shanley set it up, it came from an absolute place of love because there was no school for her son.
Yeah.
And so that that ethos and that, that integrity in the provision is really important.
Yeah.
And it's nice. You'll see when we go round.
So this way down this end of the corridor is what you call little school?
Yeah, so this is where they first start with us. It's stage, not age. Our classes are named after artists. We don't talk about year groups. We don't talk about moving up. We just talk about moving. And the class groups can be anything from 3 to 6, 7, 8, depending on the range of need and how settled they are and how ready to work they are.
And as soon as we walk here, it almost looks like we're walking into an art studio anyway. Is that deliberate? Is that because this is the art room, is it?
So the art room is one of those hubs of school because it's one of the first places that our kids really experience success, where they get a sense of pride from it and also where they get the confidence to be able to show it to other people with meaning. So many of ours come from mainstream where they've been disenfranchised, for want of a better word, and their school experiences have been really negative, that they don't want people to see their work. They don't see a sense of self-worth around their work. But you can see here, everybody in school, including the staff, has got a picture on the outside of the art room.
Yeah.
And every child in the school has a lesson with our specialist art teacher, and it's one of the first places that we see them really take those steps towards understanding that just because you see something differently to me doesn't mean that you're right and I'm wrong. Just means that we all see things differently, and that's quite cool.
Which is part of the art teaching naturally, isn't it?
Exactly. The art's astounding, actually. It's definitely one of our real strengths.
So I've noticed that all of your doorways, obviously you've got glass above, is that for safeguarding reasons? But they're stylised with symbols. Is that for easy recognition?
It's just easy recognition. It's also, they're easily explainable. It's Claremont is this side of school, and they're just named after numbers so that we know where they are. But you see the classrooms have all got their own names on. Yeah. So we've got Solak and Blake on this side, the Zendem, which we'll go to in a minute. And it's just about removing any kind of association with achievement or levelling for them. Mm-hmm. It's just, they don't even really talk about what number class, they just talk
going
about
by the name of the class. And is that because at reception it was being explained to me why you were a no lanyard school? Yeah. Because obviously a lot of the students here associate lanyards with officials, which might have a negative experience. Yeah, very much so. And is that a similar thing? By naming the classrooms, it takes away any sort of bureaucracy related with them? It
does, and I think that because of the way we structure it and their progression through the school, and because most of them have come from a year 5 classroom where they're working at a year 2 or a year 3 age, there is that immediate association for them with that sense of negativity around the work they're producing or the sense of self-worth. So the teachers actually move the artist names with them. So there's never that connotation with this teacher being more progressive or further up in the school than the next person. You just talk about which class you're going to, and that's fine.
And it's associated with that name and that teacher.
So it just removes that kind of sense of, it's that like innate pressure of progression, isn't it? That the system generally is kind of built on.
And this is the kitchen hub.
Yeah. So we've got on each side of school there is a kitchen classroom for the juniors, and this is very much based on that original process of getting them to a stage where they could sit around a table and have a conversation and share some food. And we don't do school lunches because we've got so many dietary requirements, mainly based around timescales and preferences rather than anything else. So they can bring their food in, they can heat their stuff up. We encourage them to do that because it's a really big part of their independence. And it's just about, not all of them, when they start at school here, very few of them are ready to really be around each other. So it's another measure of that kind of progress.
But you've got a big enough table in here that they could sit opposite ends of it, couldn't they?
For sure, yeah.
And can they take their food outside?
Take their food outside. Some of them prefer to sit in their classroom, and sometimes they'll put a bit of a film on for a bit of time while they're eating and things like that. But it depends on what they need at that point, because the aim of the game is to keep them regulated, keep them engaged, and keep them positive about it. So. And
what's the youngest that you have using a facility? Because obviously there's a cooker, there's a microwave, and.
So they're fully supervised at all times, of course. So there's no downtime, no lunchtime supervision. So if they're in doing things with people, then they can start that process as soon as they get to us. Hey team, how are we going?
Good.
All good. We've got some maths. So this is Miro.
I can see you obviously using a particular type of desk and particular type of, they're not sitting on chairs. They're sitting on
So these guys have all chosen to sit on these. We've got a range of things.
Are they yoga balls?
They are yoga balls. Lovely, because they give them, a lot of our kids need a lot of sensory feedback. Yeah. So it's nice because they can roll, they can bounce.
Yeah.
Gives them a bit of a cool workout. And the classrooms are reflective of the kids that are in them. And we let them take the ownership over that. So some of them are quite minimalist, some of them, to a lot of people, would appear quite cluttered. But that's what our children need to feel safe and to feel like they've got some ownership and that they want to be here. So
some of them, you like this one, you've got a sofa in it, you've got a library corner, whereas the room there, it was more about how they were sitting at their desks. And again, you've got a variety of furniture and then cooking bags and things, so they can then choose how and where they sit.
Yeah, and the really good thing about the Zen then is it's completely, kind of as a school-wide approach, embraced this concept of co-regulation for them. So they spend so much time together learning about how to support each other through that regulatory process that it takes the group of children who have never been able to access classroom learning because it's too dysregulatory for them and that it's too complex, to being a group where they're like, oh, well, if you sit on this, oh, why don't you do that? And you suddenly see them thinking about it and considering it. And it also completely normalises those conversations, which for them is massive, because previously that sort of conversation was something that was had in a one-to-one setting, out of a classroom, and you didn't want to talk about it in front of your peers because it would be different. And that's such a big part of the process, is normalising those exchanges and making something that they're then able to talk about with friends and with family. And so it makes it
okay
really
to speak about what they need to speak about. Actually, that's quite, even in sort of mainstream schools, self-regulation is becoming more and more difficult, isn't it, with certain groups of students. Is there anything that you do which they could learn from?
I mean, I think there's learnings for everybody, isn't there, regardless of your setting. And I think there's a lot to be understood about what that regulation process needs to be or can be. And, we've got 80 children here, of which every single one of them has a different regulatory strategy. And there's no hard and fast rules. It's about being able to be adaptive and be flexible and have a number of options at your disposal to be able to meet that need at the given time. And whilst we know that in mainstream schools that's not always possible, I think it's important for everybody to understand that no one person has all the answers in those situations. And just because you've been able to read this book or that book doesn't mean that the answers for that individual child are going to be in that book because of this diagnosis and because of these bits of paper. Yeah. It's much more around that, it's an overused term, isn't it, but that holistic approach and thinking about them as an individual.
It's putting the student back at the beginning, isn't it, at
absolutely.
The centre of it. And I think you're right. I think sometimes people, whether it's from a book or from a course, they take what they think is a solution, don't they? And then they try and apply it to everybody and then think, well, this isn't working.
And people have got to be kind to themselves, because as professionals, it's really easy to put yourself under pressure and think that you should be able to answer all of the questions and get it right 100% of the time. But one of the big things about being here is what works on Tuesday for pupil X might work on Tuesday, but won't work on Wednesday. And we don't know why that is. We've just got to accept that that's a thing and move on and try and work out what we need to do for them on Wednesday. We'll duck in here because I love the library in here.
It's beautifully designed, isn't it? It's all like, I can't really explain, it's almost like it's out of a doll's house.
It is really. It's all Cath Kidston furniture, actually. But we say it's a little bit like a nan's living room.
Yes.
But so many of ours come to us with books being something they're not comfortable with. And the whole point of this as a space is that it makes books non-threatening. So they're not graded by levels, they're organised by really understandable topics and sections.
Yeah, so you've got like funny books, spy books, books about sport,
facts books, puzzle books.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go to a certain section because you're a certain age. You can find your book. And for us, it doesn't matter in these early stages, particularly if you're just engaging in it by picking it up and looking at the pictures. It's just the familiarity part, and that the perception of judgment for our kids is huge from previous experiences for any host of a number of reasons. And so it's really good to be able to put them in spaces where there isn't that judgment and they feel like it is just, books might actually be all right. And it's an important part of the process.
And you're obviously not concerned about younger children accessing books that are above their understanding.
So if you go through them, there's nothing that's outside the realms of sensible topics in terms of their ability to read them or access them. There will be some that are beyond those levels, but that's also fine because it normalises the fact that you might pick up a book and you might look at it and say, oh, there's too many words in that for me. There's no shame in that.
Just
I'll
like
pick
you
up
would at
this
a normal
one.
library.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the library is always open, so during lunchtimes and break times there's always a member of staff in here. It's somewhere for them to come and hang out, and some days you'll find that the train set's been set up in here and somebody will be reading a story whilst they've set the train set up, and it's just
So it's like a living room.
Yeah, just a nice space. We come through this way, so this is this classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% care experience in this room. And there's a lot of transition objects and there's a lot of things,
Yes.
but then that's what they need
In order to be
for
able
this to be their
here.
safe space, for them to feel like they can take ownership, for them to know that they're coming back.
Okay, so you've got yoga balls on wheels.
Yep,
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
these are great. So these are much more, you can almost relax into these a little bit more,
Oh, I
but you
see.
still get the same freedom and the bounce, but you get less of the rolling.
Yeah.
We've got the wobbled stools
Wobble
over
stools.
there. It's
It's just whatever they need, isn't
Yeah.
it? And your desks are an interesting shape.
So these, I love these. These actually, I call them amoeba tables. They've got another name, but the great thing about these is it gives everybody their own space. You sit inside the nook and you've got that little hug, so you've got that sense of safety that comes. But also when you're ready to work collaboratively, or if you want to work collaboratively, they join together fantastically.
No, that's really nice.
And we're always outside, so there are always
That's why there's
trainers
shoes, yeah.
and boots everywhere.
Fair enough.
Um,
It is a lovely setting, I have to say, and it is a
Oh,
beautiful
we're-
day today, so we're very lucky.
So we've got the garden up there, we've got netball and tennis courts up the top, we've got a big playground over the back, plenty of monkey bars and climbing and clambering.
Is it a sensory garden?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not by design,
It's
but
just the
by
way it's
its
worked out.
input. Yeah. There's an amphitheatre up the top that we use for little bits and pieces
Yeah.
when they feel like they're ready for it. And then we've got a cracking outdoor learning area out the back over here. And we're forever outside. I think getting things out of the classroom is super important, but there is something really regulating and steadying and grounding about
Being outside.
being outside. So
And so lessons just happily come outside and just continue, or
Yeah,
are they planned for
absolutely.
outside?
So some are planned, some evolve out there. You know, you'll see some days you'll come out and you'll see a group of them out with rucksacks packed, and they're out doing their maths, unpacking their rucksack, doing a task, completing the task, packing their rucksack again, moving to a different part of the field, doing another. For some of them, it's much more planned or outdoor learning lessons, but then that collaboration between the core subjects and outdoor learning, and it just kind of works. And I think one of the big things that I really like about the ethos of the school and is giving people the autonomy to be able to do that as they see appropriate and as is best for their group.
And it's having a trust in your staff ability to do that, isn't it?
100%. And I am so lucky here with the team that we've got, and that goes without saying. You are only as good as the team that you've got. And our kids will not engage with you if you're not authentic and not genuine and not part of that process. You can't pretend to care about them.
No, I didn't realise how much field you had. You've almost got another field beyond this one.
Yeah. We've got 3 pygmy goats, a therapy dog, obviously football pitch, all of that jazz.
And is this vegetable patch, do they use the
So
food for things?
all the time. They cook with it. Sometimes they'll set up a little stall and they'll sell it. It depends. Sometimes we take it down to the shop and sell stuff in the shop. What's really good about the curriculum and the way that we bring it through the school now is that you kind of foster the interest and quite literally sow the seeds, what a cliche, but then they see that it's got a real purpose when they get to the top end of school.
Yes.
And that's really nice
That
for
is
them,
really
isn't
nice. And do the younger students see what the older students are doing?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of interaction in the right way. We've got fully integrated sensory OT room there, and this is our therapies hub. And we also have in here the play hub. So
And for your therapies, are the specialists part of your staff, or do they come in?
they are full-time but subcontractors.
Right.
But it's all the same people. and have been for,
So you know
for a
them?
long time. Yeah, very much so. And it's always the same people. So the other thing we've got over there that's been really good and is a hugely important part of the process is the Play Hub, which is plays really hey Dom, how you going? Good. Underutilised and I think almost underappreciated part of the learning process.
Yeah, I think you could speak to a lot of early years teachers who would agree with you there.
And I think we expect a lot from children because we refer to chronological age and we don't think about the impact of any sort of developmental disruptance or disruption that comes from any one of a range of experiences or learning needs or cognitive profiles, and we just expect them to pick things up by osmosis, and actually the process of play and sharing and the regulation around it and the nuance of conversation and all of these really important things that come from play, for a lot of our kids they just need more time to understand that and to get to grips with that. So that's a base for that to still be a thing, and it's very much set up in a very early years style but taught with real explicit purpose. And for
So is it almost, so you're saying the explicit person use, so it's guided play?
Yeah, very much so. And there are a number of our kids that come to us where we have to teach them to play. And I think that
must be quite emotional.
Yeah, it's like that's a hard part of the job, but it's also like the fundamental building blocks of success as an adult, isn't it? Because everything's built on what those foundations are, and then to suddenly expect them to just come in and sit in a classroom and crack on and not worry about other people or be able to understand the nuance of conversation or the idea of sharing or...
But also they wouldn't have learnt any joy of learning, would they? Because
No.
obviously that's where the foundations of the joy of learning comes,
Exactly.
is through learning through play.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
I do like your very realistic model of a donkey.
The donkey, I know.
It did, as I walked past, I did have to look twice.
Everybody does. So when Daniela built the school, she set it up with Lucy Barnes, and Lucy, Daniela, they're forces of nature, they're an absolute pair of dynamos, but Daniela had the family need and the big heart to do it, and Lucy had been ahead in multiple schools in Slough and wanted to do something different but had all of the education kind of knowledge. So together they were, and when they moved from Honey Lane, which was the small barn that we talked about, to here, Lucy said she wanted a donkey. It turns out that donkeys aren't quite as friendly as you want them to be. So we've got that one instead.
Hence the reason you've got pygmy goats.
Yeah, pygmy goats, who are a delight,
Yes.
actually.
Yeah.
You right, Arch? So
this is the older
So this is the older side now. So I spend a lot of time with life skills at the level that's appropriate. So for some of them it's cooking, cleaning, washing, sorting themselves out. It's travel training. For others that's all about the employability and what comes next. But they will all plan their meals, cook their meals, go to the supermarket and buy their meals, learn how to use self-checkouts, which it turns out are one of the most stressful things in the world if you've got the cognitive profile of one of our children. And you've got to do things quickly and under pressure and with people behind you. So it's about covering all the bases so that when they leave us, they are as well equipped as humanly possible.
And this kitchen hub, although bigger than the Littleys one, it's got the same things in it.
Exactly the same principle. So there's a constant familiarity in the style and the build, because one of the things that's universally challenging for our kids is transitions. So this is all the transition that they want, but all of the familiarity that they need. This is, we come over to secondary side. Sorry, miss.
This is the best place to be.
I know, so...
I can see that you're doing one of the puzzles.
So this is one of my
It's a
favourite things
Pokemon
about
puzzle.
the school. Now, in all the time I've been here, nobody has ever deliberately upset the puzzle. So every week there's different 500 or 1,000 piece puzzle goes out here, and the kids drop in and do a bit, the staff
So people
drop in
do it
and
as they
a
walk
bit,
past?
They do it as they walk past. For some of them it's a regulatory activity. And then once the puzzle's finished, everybody acknowledges the puzzle's finished, we put a new one out. But nobody ever sabotages the puzzle. And then so this is senior side of school now, so the kitchenette, similar to the kitchen classrooms, but a little bit more independence,
Yeah.
always fully supervised, all of those things, but that sense of a bit more maturity,
Yes.
secondary school kind of model. And then it starts to look
A bit more like,
Yeah.
got science room and the different rooms.
science room, media, teaching space, classroom.
Yes.
But again,
Yeah, and the
they-
classrooms do look a little bit more formal, even though they have got a variety of furniture in them.
But it's the stage that you get to where they're fully willing participants in that process. So thinking about careers and qualifications, so we do range and raft of qualifications and certifications from entry level up to level 2, and there's no hard and fast rules, so everybody's qualification certification pathway is bespoke.
To them. And are you able to manage that because you're so small?
I mean, it's definitely it definitely helps. I think also because we don't try and be all things to all people.
Yeah.
You know, we know what
students you've
ours
got coming
need.
in.
We know who we're catering for, and
So if you've got the right students in a setting, is it possible then to scale up that kind of individual approach, or do you think it reaches a certain size where actually this isn't doable if we go beyond?
I think within timetabling is probably your realms of limitation.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm super lucky that James, who you met, who writes our timetable, is. I always just imagine it must just be like the Matrix coming down in front of his face when he's doing it. But it's, you know, space and resource is always the limiting factor, isn't it? But as much as possible, it's about finding their niche and then working out the route that they need. Because just because somebody is going to be really strong at maths doesn't mean they're going to be equally strong in other subjects. So it's that ability to be able to say, actually, well, you can do your maths with this, but then let's go over here and let's look at level 1
or do a
science,
vocational.
or let's find something vocational for. And that's where the flexibility comes.
And that also, I suppose, gives you the opportunity, say if we use maths as an example, they could be really good at maths but not actually be able to cope with a formal sitting down an exam, so actually vocational, BTEC or something else would
Exactly.
be able to. Oh, more boots.
More boots.
And these
boots.
ones are wellies this time. The
Wellies
older children seem a bit
everywhere.
more prepared.
Um,
Was that a planned boot room on the way out, or was
yeah,
it?
so the boot rooms are all planned, and it was one of the. Again, it's a hangover from the very first version of school where every day started with a good tramp because it was about the only way to get people through the door.
And I've noticed like all the students are obviously wearing clothes that they're comfortable in.
Yeah,
It's no
very much
uniform. Staff are on first name terms.
No,
No?
we're Mr. and Mrs. and that's really interesting because we did a while ago, well, years and years ago, try the first name thing, but a lot of our children found it really unsettling.
Right.
Because whilst there is no hierarchy because that breeds respect. It's what they need to feel safe. They need to know that the adults are there to support them and supervise and keep them safe.
Yes.
And
So they need that level of authority to support their...
yeah. And it's really hard for a lot of us to differentiate relationships or manage relationships. So Mr. and Mrs. is a clear kind of line in the sand around that demarcation of what the relationship is. And you know, we're quite flexible in most things, but that is something that we changed and then changed back again, and we never had any pushback. The kids were all
They
just
were
went
happy
straight
with that, went back to it. And what was obviously, you know, the change to first names originally, what was the choice there? What was the thinking behind that?
That was always to do with the kind of the familiarity and that idea that it might make people feel more welcome and safer. But actually it kind of did the opposite, and I think
That's really interesting.
and it's also about, you know, it doesn't look like school, it doesn't necessarily feel like school, but it very much is a school. And there are some things that just help with that. And I know that there's a lot of schools that are on first name terms, and with the profile of their children it works really well, but for ours it was like an extra layer of complexity that made the day more unsettling for them.
Yeah. So it makes sense to have that formality.
Yeah.
Does it help the parents having that formality, do you think? Or does that not make any difference?
I
to
don't
them?
think it makes that much difference. I mean, I will always use first names with parents, which I know is, you know, not for everybody, but that's kind of, and I suppose that kind of, that structured informality, I suppose, would be the best way to think of it. Because the other part of being here is, it's a shared experience, and it's not, nobody comes here because the world's an easy place. Nobody chooses to come to our school because, you know, without good reason. And so we rely on the relationships within our community to be able to understand exactly what our kids need. And so we need those relationships with our parents, with the children, and with, you know, whatever wider professionals are with them to be able to stand our best chance of success for them. And I think that when you're working at that kind of, at times, really visceral level with, you know, family dynamics and complexities at home and big behaviours and challenging behaviours, you need that relationship. And I think for me, just because of the way I work, I suppose, I feel that first name bit is a big part of that trust process.
Yeah, I can understand that. Now, we've come obviously out of the building for the older students, and you've got another building. This one looks quite new.
So this is quite new. We finished this off 3 years ago. And this is construction, woodwork, resistant materials. Choose any label that you could put on this room
It's
from
very well
education in the
equipped,
last
I'd
10
say.
years. Yeah, very well equipped. And then in a similar vein, we've got the gym. So
Again, fully equipped.
fully equipped, small enough to be welcoming, big enough to be usable. And it's about that idea of normalising experience, but also developing healthy habits.
And you've got the outside gym as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, just see if we can grab something in here. Hey Ron, sorry, I just want to grab one of these. So
Oh, look. Hello, sorry to interrupt you.
this is, so Ron, this is Ron's room. So we talked about names.
Yes.
Ron is the only member of staff,
They
of
all
teaching
call Ron.
staff that is Ron.
Yeah.
And it's just because Ron came to us as working for a provider that used to come in and do construction with our older students.
Things like that Hammerhead shop. I've seen things in the shop like that at Whipsnade Zoo.
I know, it's
Yeah.
lovely, isn't it? I really like them. They're very sensory,
That's
touchy-feely,
really
aren't they?
So,
Yeah.
it's
So they're
about
learning
using
all of
the
that.
Feeling for different things.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you,
That's the
Ron.
idea of it. It's all right.
And the thing I like about those shared learning spaces, so that all the whole school uses them, is the younger students or the newer students can see everything everybody else has done.
Yeah.
Oh, look, here's the wooden horse.
There's the wooden horse. Purely aesthetic, and to train
But I gather they
cowboys
sit on
with-
it.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
That is all right then. And then obviously, hey miss, it's Tanya, who's our maths teacher.
So this
This
is
is the diner, Desi's diner.
Desi's
so-
diner, done up like a 1940s diner.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's social space, lunch space.
You've used every nook and cranny, haven't you?
It is. And it's funny, isn't it? Schools generally, it doesn't matter how much space you've got, you'll never
You fill
feel
it,
like it's
yeah.
enough. So we could actually have 96 on roll.
Okay.
Um,
And that's without being any detriment in the
Yeah,
shared spaces.
we will only ever have 80 because 80, when we were over the last sort of 7 or 8 years of growth with this site, 80 is where we found it works for the kids. And so we'll never go more than that. And that's our operating numbers as far as it'll ever be.
Now, we've kind of done a big circuit all the way around the school and got back
We
to
have, So
reception.
we're now back in reception.
And when we were here originally, we were talking about the fact it's got a very industrial feel to it, which, I don't know, kind of adds to the calm feeling and the feeling of space.
Yeah, and I think we like it because you don't feel confined by the ceiling. So if you put ceiling tiles in, everything's dropped below the sort of the gantries, and all of a sudden it might start to feel quite shut off. But also I think so many of ours have such negative sort of experiences and connotations with school that it's quite important that when they first walk in it doesn't look like school. And so it's described as lots of things. It was once described as a posh Wetherspoons by a visitor, but it's, I'll probably take that because it was a posh one. So it's, but it's, but that's a big part of that environmental bit that we talked about earlier on is the feel, but the environment is so much more than the look. The environment is the ethos, the time that goes into it, the processes, the strategy, and the people, right? The the entire school is reflective of the people, and that's the children and the staff.
And you said earlier the staff move with their class name. Do they move with the children as well, or do they?
No,
the children...
so the children, because the journey through school is never linear, and because we look at stages rather than ages, there's no predictions around where you're going to go at what given time. So we allocate staff to groups based on relationships and based on shared interests, and we look at the groups and the cohorts based on those things as well. So as successes and needs emerge through the course of the time with us, we know more and more about them. So, and then once they've sort of progressed to this side of school, they work on a specialist teaching model where you get your English teacher, your maths teacher, your science teacher, and we do that on a watered down version over this side, because it's not about the constant of the person, it's about the constant in the approach and the consistency in the language and the understanding.
And that's where you need all your staff working on the same page.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just the hall.
Yeah, and then, I mean, you've seen one, you've seen
It's
them
quite
all,
a big
haven't you?
space, isn't it?
We do circus skills, we've got trapeze and some silks and...
Is that the trapeze hanging there?
Yeah.
Is circus skills something which particularly works well with your students, or is it something you had a member of staff who was?
We had the circus come and live with us for a couple of weeks,
Oh, did you?
5 years ago, which was amazing. They moved in for 2 weeks and we collapsed the curriculum and taught everything through circus, which was unreal. And we will do
Obviously
that again
that's a
at some
benefit
point.
of being an independent school, is it really, that you can do that? Yeah.
And I think that's, when you talk about the benefits of independent status, that is the benefit, right? That you can do things that we see something that the children are going to thrive around and that they want to do and that they're going to engage in, and we have the wherewithal to instill that flexibility in the curriculum, and that's not just around the glamorous bits like that. That's like day to day. And when you look at the curriculum that we teach, it's robust and it's well structured and it's all of those things that a curriculum needs to be, but it's also flexible and intuitive and allows us to respond to their needs and thoughts and feelings, and means that if something is particularly challenging for one person for any reason, personal reasons, things that are going on outside of school or anything like that, we can take a step back and we can give them that time to be able to settle themselves, regulate, manage all the other bits around it, and then come back to it.
Rather than rushing down a linear line that you've got only a certain amount of time to do. I think that's excellent. It's a shame we didn't visit during Circus Week, wasn't it? It's a lovely school.
Thank you very much. We are very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So Dan, let's talk about the apprentice shop. It's such a distinctive project. Can you tell us how the apprentice shop began, what sort of inspired the idea, and how partnerships with local businesses and other schools and the community have really helped bring it to life?
So the apprentice shop it's become a real force to be reckoned with. It originally came about because just as COVID started, one of our staff was medically vulnerable and so couldn't be in work, and so she was spending a lot of time at home crocheting and crafting, and we were given access to we had originally set up a little shop in school, and then we were given access to a space to use as a pop-up shop in an existing business retail unit in Maidenhead, and that was kind of the start of the apprentice shop. We were very fortunate that through collaboration with the Shanley Foundation and Sorbonne, we were offered a space, a shop of our own, and it just gathered momentum from there. We didn't really appreciate at the time the value that it would bring across the whole range to our students, and I think we always knew that employability was something that was going to be really important for our kids and that we needed to concentrate on. I think we probably didn't realise how versatile a shop was going to be for that as a resource, and so we now have it's been through a couple of different versions, I would say. We were once in the old Poundland unit in Maidenhead High Street for a while, which was very, very big to run as a charity shop. There's no two ways about that. We are now in a much more boutique site at the far end of Maidenhead in the end that's been completely redeveloped. But the shop is very much about the community around it. It's about our children and other schools' children staffing it and supporting it. It's about the sense of community that comes around from having regular visitors, regular members of the wider community who have nothing to do with the school that pop in and know the children and know the staff that are running it. It's about the personal development for our kids and the others around that retail experience and interior design and all manner of maths, English, and all those really good cross-curricular bits. But it's just such a valuable asset now to what we do and to our children.
And you mentioned sort of the partnership with business, making it, being vital to get it to work. And obviously you're also gone a lot further by opening the shop for students from other local special schools so they can get the benefits that your students have gained. But how do you think, from your perspective, the businesses or other schools or partners, how do you think they have benefited in this collaboration? You've talked a lot about what your students are gaining from it, but what are they gaining from it?
I think it's really nice for those partners to have something really very tangible and very, it's a success, and it's a success that you can see as soon as you're part of it, because the children are smiling and they're engaged in something they wouldn't normally get to do. The public are engaged and feel like they're a part of something that's making a difference. And I think that the biggest benefit really is that it broadens people's understanding of what our children and children with additional needs are able to do in the right context. And that's arguably the best bit about it. When you think about our cohorts and who they are and what their onward trajectories are, anything that we can put in place that helps breed that sense of self-worth and helps them understand that they have a value beyond school is really important. And then to expose them to people who have nothing to do with the school, who then endorse that, that's the dream. So it's about something more than that kind of financial benefit. It's much more around a deepening of understanding and a realising of potential, I think, for people.
And have you seen any value in the perceptions of the public who come into the shop, their perceptions of the students who are running it? Has there been a shift there?
I think definitely it's overwhelmingly positive. People's experience with our students and all of the students from other schools in the shop are overwhelmingly positive. And I think that removal of maybe a stigma and maybe an improving of people's understanding of needs and what labels actually are, and it's, for me, and I think us as a school, it's not about the labels per se, it's about just finding people's strengths and promoting that sense of success. And there is something in that, and you do see, and you do have conversations with people who then start to share stories of their own family members who have had, challenges through education and how positive this could have been for them. And it's a conversation starter which raises awareness and increases understanding. And for that reason alone, it's hugely successful.
And for other maybe schools or businesses who might be listening to the podcast who wanted to do something similar in a social enterprise way, what advice would you give on building those strong and sustainable partnerships?
I think you have to be proactive, and you have to not be afraid to just go for it, I think, because it doesn't need to be something grand or something, big and fancy. It can literally be the fact that somebody started making more crochet during COVID than they ever thought they were going to need, and actually it turned out that could turn into Christmas decorations that could then be sold, and it grew from a concession stand that was put into somebody's shop because they, and it's find your relationships in your community. Schools are a great big community, and there will always be a route to find something that produces that as an option. And if the start of it is a stall on the driveway on a Friday afternoon, then do that. That's great. You know, it's something that promotes that enterprise, but in a way that almost allows it to be organic. I think when something like this feels pressurized, it can be a layer of complexity that maybe people aren't prepared to take on. But if it's something that you can do and start small and allow to grow organically, then it's almost more rewarding. And I think it's as much as it can be led and directed by the children and young people that are in direct contact with it, you know, the better. There's no doubt about it that the development of the relationship internally between the member of staff that was producing all the crochet and then the children that were convincing people to buy the crochet in the shop, you know, and even that, the supply and demand and we were speaking to this lady and she said that her Christmas theme is going to be gold and red. So can you make some gold and red ones? Oh yeah, we can do, you know, that, even that kind of promotion of discussion is a benefit. So as much as possible, just try it. You know, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, it's just giving it a go.
That one's not a success. Yeah,
it
doesn't, and it can start from real humble beginnings for sure.
And if we had any parents listening who might be wondering if an independent SEN school was the right for their child, we've obviously talked about the students that you have here. What advice would you offer them when they're choosing a school?
I think this is advice around choosing schools for me is the same whether it's independent or SEN or whether it's whether it's maintained or independent. I think it's learn about what there is and find the place that's able to meet the needs of that particular child, that young person. And you know, the label of independent special school doesn't mean that it's better at X and Y than a maintained sector special school. It just means that, like us, we have a different area of specialism to another independent special school that could be close by, and it's much more around looking at the individual and what they need and what level of support do the family need and what is that setting able to do to meet that person's need. And I think that's one of the things that can help almost remove the stigma around that label, is that it's just a different approach to education. It's just a different way of thinking. It's a different level of understanding. And, you know, arguably, is it any different to choosing a grammar school or a non-selective? You know, not really. It's, yes, there's less of them, and yes, they're not as prevalent, and yes, all of those things, so that does make it more challenging. But being objective about what you're looking for and what you want to get for that young person is the most important part of the process, I think.
And finally, we've obviously walked around the school, we've had a look around, and you've given us a lot of insight. If our listeners could take one thing away from listening to this podcast, what would you like them to do?
It's a big question, isn't it? I think the most important thing is in education is to understand that none of us have got all of the answers. And I think when you go and look at schools or when you engage with schools, whether they're special schools or not, none of us as educators have got all of the answers to any one child. And that idea of collaboration and that idea of broadening and deepening knowledge and understanding of all contexts is really important. And that's the same whether you're a parent or a teacher or a professional. I think understanding the tiny things that can make a massive difference to that one student are really, really important. And that's regardless of whether there's additional need or not. I think that not being scared of something that's different or that this person might know more than you is like neither here nor there, because at any given time we should all be learning from the people around us regardless of their specialism. So I think it's much more around that idea of sharing good practice and sharing knowledge and understanding and broadening the wider field of knowledge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But this has been a really insightful discussion, Dan. Thank you so much for letting us wander around the school, see everything you're doing.
Absolute pleasure.
And for being a guest on our podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
To our listeners, if today's conversation has been of interest, do subscribe, explore past episodes, and tune in again for future discussions on cross-sector collaboration and other topics relevant to education. Until then, stay curious, stay connected.
You've been listening to Independently Speaking, the podcast of the Independent Schools Association. For more information about ISA and the schools we support, please visit isaschools.org.uk.